Hi, guys and ladies. So this looks like a pretty fashionable audience. Well, but for the few that might not be familiar with your products, what do each of you do in one sentence?
I am the president of Nasty Gal.
And what's Nasty Gal?
Nasty Gal is an online women's fashion retailer.
So I'm Dave Gilboa, one of the founders of Warby Parker. So we created our own brand of glasses that we sell direct to consumers, primarily online, but we just opened our first store a couple weeks ago.
Cool. And I'm Michael Preysman. I'm the founder of Everlane. We are an online fashion brand that sells high-end luxury basics without any of the traditional markups.
I'm Deena Varshavkaya. I'm the CEO of Wanelo, which comes from Want, Need, Love, and we are an online community for all of the world's shopping.
So, all of you have raised VC. What was the experience like raising venture as a fashion or e-commerce company? Did investors get it immediately, or were they like, oh, hold on, let me go ask my wife or my daughter? Deena?
Sure. Well, I think we're in a little bit of a unique position in regards to the other panelists. We're a platform for shopping rather than a traditional brand or a new brand. I think my experience was that investors definitely were extremely interested. It was actually really easy to get meetings. Closing was a whole different thing. But I think what's interesting about the interest from investors is that I think there was a lot of awareness of changes that need to happen in commerce. And I think that investors know that, I don't know, the internet is becoming a social place, and that commerce needs to see some of the same changes that we're seeing on other, other verticals, right? So there needs to be a social experience for commerce, and where is it? So I think they're looking.
Why was closing so hard?
Why is it so hard?
Why was closing so hard?
Oh, for me in particular, I didn't have a strong technical team at the time. I'm a solo founder, so not having a technical co-founder was a really big roadblock. So I had to deliver results first, show that there's traction and a product that's working, and then funding happened.
Were you like, quick, does anyone know anyone technical?
It's a little hard to hear. Would you repeat the question?
Yeah, sounds kind of bad.
It's a little echoey.
All right. So were you like, hey, do you know anyone technical, or did you rush to get
I had
engineers?
a product. We had early traction, right? So that's really why investors were really interested. But then winning their confidence, getting their confidence that we actually have what it takes to build the winning experience we're after, that was hard.
Michael, was it hard?
I'd say in general that venture has sort of opened up to the idea of investing both in physical product and in fashion. And so for us, I think they've seen a couple companies start to get successful, and they see this huge opportunity, right? Amazon is 50% of books are now sold online, and Amazon's the big winner. And so the question is, when is that going to happen with all these fashion brands? And so when we went out there telling that story, it was actually pretty, it wasn't easy. We do have physical product, but they were very open and receptive to the idea. So we didn't have problems getting meetings, and everything worked out pretty well. And of course, they understand the risks, but they're open to it.
And for us, we bootstrapped for a long time and kind of wanted to try to gain as much traction as we could before we went out and raised outside funding. And so by the time we were having conversations with investors, we were able to show just real traction in the business. We had tens of thousands of customers, and I think that got people excited. I think they were also just excited looking at the category we were in. It's $65 billion worldwide. Less than 1% of glasses were sold online in the US at the time, and just looking at every other vertical where more and more of that business was moving online, it seemed inevitable that the same thing was going to happen with glasses, and by creating our own vertically integrated brand, we could kind of circumvent the monopoly that controls the industry and create a profitable business.
I know you guys had issues with the name.
With the name?
With Nasty Gal.
That's provocative. People remember it, though. I can tell you that. Yeah, look, Sophia started the company. By the time she went to raise some money last year, the company was You know, she had just done $27 million. She was profitable. She had bootstrapped for a number of years. She had grown the company extraordinarily through social media, word of mouth. So it was a very, very exciting story. Raising capital was not an issue at all.
Okay, so it sounds like the trick is show traction, basically. So
Results.
if you're already doing all right, well, it's a luxurious problem.
Well, it's an easy story when you're already profitable. It's a much easier story than having to build the model to show when you will be.
So if the case is that okay, we already have people using us, how do you acquire customers economically and at scale, since doing something like Facebook or Google AdWords is really, really expensive?
For us, we were totally organic from the beginning, I guess you'd say. And I think we've gone out and e-commerce is this cool thing where once people actually buy the product, then they tell their friends, and they really, if you tell a good story, they're excited to tell their friends that story. So we've relied on that from the beginning. So we launched and you go out to friends and family, you go out to sort of work with others that might know other people, and you send out this big email list and you get your initial set of customers, and then after that, the whole thing has just gone organically. People do word of mouth. So we've actually purposefully not done any advertising to force ourselves to create the best product possible so that people will just share it with friends.
Yeah, I think our approach was, how can we introduce this brand through as many credible sources as possible? And for us, that was PR and word of mouth. And so we launched with features in GQ and Vogue. And I think I personally was blown away by the impact that being featured in those publications had. We thought it would just give us a lot of credibility in the fashion world. But we were shocked at how much traffic and sales those features generated. So we hit our first year sales targets in 3 weeks, and then we're stocked out of inventory, and it was just kind of blew us away. And then we really just focused on customer experience. And as Michael said, if you can provide those early customers with a great product, with a great experience, they're going to want to tell everyone they know about it. And those two channels continue to be by far our biggest drivers of growth. More recently, in the past few months, we've focused on ways to increase brand awareness. So what can we do to layer on top of press and word of mouth? And for us, that's more than just kind of arbitraging opportunities on buying Google AdWords. We're trying to find ways where we can tell our story in a compelling way. And so we're testing a TV commercial and thinking about events that we can control the narrative and introduce customers to Warby Parker in a way that adds a little more depth than just clicking on a link.
A TV commercial. Wow, Warby, you're really gunning for it. Are you guys doing something with Google Glass? Like, is partnerships another way? I know that's been reported, but I've heard that you aren't doing something.
There have been a bunch of rumors floating around that I can't really comment on. We are thinking about a bunch of different partnerships. So we launched what we call the Warby Parker class trip, where we bought this old yellow school bus that we gutted and turned into a mobile store, and that's been touring the country, setting up pop-up shops. We partnered with American Express on that, where they're promoting that to a lot of their customers, and also partnered with the Standard Hotel Group, where we're selling glasses out of their hotels, and thinking about innovative partnerships that are aligned with our brand.
Is Google Glass one of them?
I can't comment on that.
Deena and Deborah? Yeah, I mean, the company grew through social media. I think learning how to, speak very authentically through various channels. Sophia did an amazing job. Our customer is completely fluent on all social channels. Word of mouth, even now, 6 years later, 7 out of 10 of our customers hear about us through word of mouth, friend referral, social media, or blogs. We only had created a marketing team probably, within the last 6 months. So we do a little bit of some paid marketing, but the vast majority is organic and through word of mouth.
How do you set that up on purpose, though? You tell as many people as possible, hey, I've got this amazing product, or you go to the right people or the influencer people or something sort of gross like that? What do you do? Like, tell your friends just a lot and continuously?
No, I think, you're developing a brand. I think you need to have a very strong point of view. I think you need to then execute on that consistently and cohesively sending the same message, very strong messages across all channels, across all ways that you're going to speak to this girl. And then it happens organically. And of course, you have to have the assortment to back it up and the user experience. But you create this, kind of end-to-end experience and this dialogue with this customer that she's excited to share. She's excited to talk about it.
I actually think consumers or people in general want to tell stories, and so if you give them a story to tell and you do a really good job, concise, like you tell, hey, here's a story of how this product was made, or if you do a class trip, like people want to be in the know. So if you do something and tell the story really well, and I think too many people don't, naturally your customer, like they will find that story and then they will go tell 10 friends. And those are the 10 friends that are probably most likely to be interested in the product. And so in general, word of mouth is, I think, way more powerful than often online social because it's really targeted. So I went to the Warby Parker class trip, as an example, or I went to the Everlane Nada shop. And I think that's really cool, and I'll go tell 10 friends. And those are 10 friends that are likely to go to that same event. And so I think oftentimes tech companies don't value word of mouth as much as they should.
So I got our first 1,000 users by spending $20 on Facebook. But the reason, $20 on Facebook per day on advertising. But the reason why it worked is that the very first experience worked so well at that point. And what it was that it created immediate value for users who visited the site. And the value was that you were suddenly exposed to, you would go to Wanelo and you were suddenly exposed to a giant wall of products from all over the web. And there were products that were surprising and quirky and different. And they came from different brands and stores you've never heard of. And there was no explanation needed, right? So the experience for our audience was that they would see this grid, they would instantly see something they liked, like on the first page, and they would want to click on that thing, but then they would see another thing like 2 rows down that they also wanted to click on. And so they knew that they had to spend a bunch of time to like weed through this grid of products. And so that was really compelling. And the $20 was just like an excuse to get people to look at it.
Did you spend anything on Google Ads? Did any of you? Did you guys? For sunglasses? I mean, glasses is huge on Google.
Yeah, I mean, we do now. We don't spend a ton of money on kind of any online channel, but for the first 2+ years after we launched, we didn't spend a penny on customer acquisition or marketing.
So I think the world is splitting into new retail and old retail, much like old media and new media. The next Zara or the next Armani will probably start online. So what's different about what works today versus what used to work in the past?
I mean, I think what really works at Nasty Gal is we have created a brand that really resonates with our demographic. We're creating an experience, and it's backed up by the assortment. We have a dialogue with our customer across a variety of channels. I think we're very authentic. I think we're transparent. When we make mistakes, we own up to it. Our customer is very savvy, very fluent, very demanding. And we're here to create this new environment that is curated, that's personalized. We want to allow her to consume fashion however she wants to, whenever she wants to. Hopefully in the future more on our platform than on these agnostic other platforms.
I think old retail is about who can spend the most money to put your products as a brand in front of the consumer, right? So new retail is really just about who can create the authentic relationship with the buyer. And I think we have some awesome examples here of the brands that do, right? And so it's about that authentic connection. And you create those relationships in various ways, by telling your story, by being transparent. And I think that in our example, we are very much enabling brands to build their communities on top of Wanelo and be in touch with them and directly and build that authenticity. It's much less about the marketing spend.
So how are you telling your story? Are you saying, hey, we're the mall, but we're online? for Wanelo specifically?
For us specifically?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. So for me, Wanelo is actually, and I think for our entire team, it's actually a platform for us to express who we are, and that's how it becomes authentic. So some examples of this would be the language that we use in our experience, right? So these are really simple but silly things. So for example, if you search for a product on Wanelo and we find 0 results, instead of telling you 0 results, we say, this is awkward, we didn't find anything. And so users love these little details because they sense that there's someone behind this experience that is speaking to them, that's almost playing with them. And so we see, for example, users actually Instagramming, like that little, like, this is awkward thing has been Instagrammed probably like 100 times. We have other silly examples in games that we play with users. And so I think that's one of the reasons that it's an authentic experience for us, and it's an authentic experience for them. And so there is just sort of like this ongoing conversation. And they know that we're not selling to them, that we're doing things for their benefit. And that's sort of like our entire orientation as a company is to create value for users, and they know that.
David, what makes you different from something like Luxottica?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot of what we just heard, where I think consumers build emotional connections with brands, and the way to build that connection is being authentic and transparent. And so, kind of, one example that I think really opened our eyes to how powerful just kind of creating content and sharing who you are as a brand and who the people are behind the brand as an enabler of just kind of this connection building with consumers is a couple years ago we published our first annual report, which didn't include much in the way of financial metrics the way a traditional annual report would, but just had kind of fun facts about our business, showed key trends in our traffic, had kind of the top 10 misspellings of Warby Parker in Google, had the breakdown of the types of bagels that we eat in our team meetings, kind of the beers that our employees like in our in happy hours.
Did you explain where your name came from?
Not as part of that report, but it was just kind of a fun infographic, and we just wanted to create it just to kind of share something about who we are with our customers, and we were blown away. It was tweeted out several thousand times, shared on Facebook thousands of times. It led to our 3 highest days of traffic and sales at the time, and it really served as a great marketing tool when we just wanted to share with consumers, and we found kind of the more that we share, the more kind of vulnerable we are, talking about kind of what inspired new designs, new collections, kind of what was the inspiration behind our TV commercial, behind kind of our retail store design, the deeper connections we're able to build with consumers. And as Michael said, people really want information that they can share. They want to know something that everyone else at the dinner table doesn't, so they can talk about kind of this new interesting brand, and they know all these details. And so I think just adding depth to that connection with consumers is increasingly powerful. And I think being online, having direct connections to consumers, understanding who they are when you're tweeting at them, being able to look at kind of their entire transaction history, where they're coming from, allows you to build those really personal connections.
So let's give our audience something they can share at dinner tonight. Where did your name come from?
We joke that was kind of the hardest part about starting our company, finding a name that all 4 founders liked. But it's from 2 early Jack Kerouac characters from his unpublished work. So one was Warby Pepper, the other was Ag Parker. Discovered it just up the road here at the New York Public Library when they did an expose on his private diaries.
Are all of you Kerouac fans? See, I didn't know that. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, we talked a lot about just kind of the Beat Generation writers and Kerouac and specifically as kind of a representation for what we were trying to do as a brand when we launched.
Thank you. Michael, you said you'd rather shut down than open a brick and mortar store. Dave, you just opened one, so.
It's a very nice store.
Thank you.
Have you reconsidered your statement? Have you changed your mind on this?
I think our sort of bet is that the future is online, and so we're investing against that. I think the interesting thing is online offers a lot of ability to tell a story that you necessarily couldn't in the physical world. Whether it be, we just yesterday launched, or was 2 days ago, the inside look into our factory. Doing something like that in a physical store is very hard to do. And so I think the way we think about it is we want to put sort of time and energy in creating that story online, whether it be through videos, whether it be through details about the product, whether it be inside looks into our factory, and really build that editorial online. And I think that offers something that you can't ever get in a physical store. And so that's sort of our belief. And I think there have been a ton of brands that have done that, all the way to massive, large ones like Net-a-Porter, which everything is editorial online and doesn't have physical stores. So I think the belief is we can do this without having permanent locations. That said, we've done events. And I think those are great ways to bridge the gap and give people an exposure to the brand and meet the people that they do want to meet, and actually physically touch the clothes once, and then they build that trust, and then they're totally willing to buy everything else.
So you think those events will eventually lead to a natural online, offline component for Everlane?
Permanent one, likely not.
I've always thought, this is great seeing you both up here, because I've always thought one of you should buy the other. And now I'm looking at you both, and I think one of you should buy the other. I don't know which one.
I have a pair of Warby Parker glasses. They're wonderful.
I have some Everlane shirts.
There we go.
I've told VCs,
Except
you know what, you should.
My pair got stolen. Somebody really loves Warby.
So e-commerce is a really tough category. I often think of it as haves or have-nots. You guys are the haves, so give yourselves a round of applause for just making it through. You, Deborah, went from Shoe Dazzle to Nasty Gal, so I'm sure there's a lot of struggle stories. Can you share with us a horror story about being an e-commerce entrepreneur? Or if you don't have one yet,
I doubt there's anyone who has not had one yet.
okay. Or if you don't have one yet, or if yours is too racy for the TechCrunch audience, a story of one of the highs as opposed to the lows.
I mean, I can jump in, and kind of also a story that explains how we ended up opening a physical store. So we launched thinking 100% of our business would be online. We came up with this home try-on program where people can select 5 frames. We'll send them to you for free without prescription lenses, include a free return shipping label, and thought that was a way that we could obviate the need for having a physical location. People could try on the physical product in comfort of their own home and make it really easy for them. Again, we launched with these features in GQ and Vogue, and within 48 hours, we were stocked out of all our home try-on inventory, had a wait list of 20,000 customers waiting for home try-ons, and we kind of freaked out, didn't know what to do. We'd taken, before we put up this wait list, we had taken thousands of orders that we couldn't fulfill, started getting calls from people all over Philly, where we were based at the time, saying that they wanted to come into our store, they needed to try on our frames. And we said, well, the store's my apartment, but come on over. And just had strangers from all over Philly coming into our apartments, laid out the glasses on a dining room table, and found that people loved that experience. They loved getting to meet the people behind the brand. And every single person that came to our apartments bought at least one pair of glasses. A lot of people bought multiple pairs. And then so when we moved into our first office here in New York, we dedicated a portion of the office to a customer showroom. That now we're on the 5th floor, no signage, non-retail block. We'll get thousands of customers in there on a typical weekend. We're doing more sales per square foot than a Tiffany's. And that really gave us the confidence that not only would opening kind of a bricks and mortar store be great for retail and for kind of marketing and branding, but it would actually drive sales, and kind of economics would make a lot of sense. And so we opened a 2,000 square foot store in Soho on Prince and Green, across the street from the Apple store next to Ralph Lauren. So it's several times bigger than a typical optical shop. We've been getting thousands of people a day through there. There's been lines around the block. And so I think we've seen that there are just a lot of synergies between having, building a brand online until you have sufficient scale. You've built that trust and engagement with consumers that then allows you to open a store and allows it to be packed. If we had to open that store 2 or 3 years ago, it probably would have been empty because we hadn't built that presence online.
Deena, do you have any Wanelo horror stories?
Lots of work. Well, so we don't deal with inventory, right? Which means that we don't have as many like inventory-related disasters.
Lucky you.
But yeah, like there are lots of highlights. So we, as a team, we have a lot of addicted users, and as a team, we are addicted to our users being addicted to us, and it's just this like self-reinforcing cycle. We get a lot of love on Twitter and Instagram, and one little highlight from the recent past that was a personal favorite for me was that I write our iOS update text, like when we release the next release of our mobile apps. And it's very, it's like fun. I write it to my friends. And I got to troll one of our engineers 2 releases ago. So I trolled one of our engineers. It was, it was like sharing sort of like how the week went at Wanelo, and the team's growing and everything's great. And one of our engineers, his name is Khan, had his birthday. And so I included his birthday email in the update. And he received like hundreds of emails from strangers who were just like, "Hey Khan, happy birthday," and like asking him about his gift. And like he got like a fish tank in the shape of a fish with a fish in it, so that was mentioned in the update. And some of the emails that we got were just like absurdly creative, and it was amazing.
You should publish those. Engineers need more love. You should publish those. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was awesome.
All right, wonderful. All right, unfortunately we're out of time, but thank you all. Keep eating them all or rebuilding them all, and hopefully I'll get to see you guys again next year.
Awesome, thanks.
All right, bye everyone.